Marta Solis had transcribed 47 municipal hearings in her career, almost all of them traffic disputes and zoning appeals, and she had learned to read a room before the panel chair called order. The second-floor hearing room at Callaway City Hall smelled of old carpet and recycled air, and the fluorescent tubes above the dais flickered at the far left end the way they always did on cold mornings. She set her steno machine on its stand, squared her notepad, and looked up. The veteran was already seated at the respondent's table when she arrived. He wore a pressed button-down shirt, white, the collar slightly wide on his neck, and a pair of dark trousers that had been ironed with visible care. His hands were folded on the table. He had a manila envelope in front of him, slim, closed with a metal clasp. He did not look around the room the way nervous people do. He looked at the table, then at the dais, then at the window to his left, and his face was steady. Marta knew almost nothing about his case. She had been assigned the session 40 minutes earlier when the regular transcriptionist called in sick. She knew only what the case header told her: Veterans Benefits Supplemental Appeal, Docket V. 2214. She did not know his name yet. She would learn it when the panel chair read it into the record. The hearing officer arrived 3 minutes late. His name was Greer. She knew him from 2 prior sessions. He dropped his folder on the dais without looking at the room, poured himself water from the carafe, and read something on his phone before setting it face down. He did not acknowledge the veteran. The panel chair, a small woman named Aldrich, arrived behind him, nodded once to the room, and called the session to order at 9:17. Docket V. 2214, Aldrich said. Mr. Elias Drummond, appealing denial of supplemental benefits. Mr. Drummond, you may begin your statement. The veteran, Drummond, unfolded his hands and spoke clearly. His voice was unhurried. He had served 14 years, he said. He had been discharged with a service-connected rating that was later reclassified in a way he believed was in error, and this appeal concerned the reclassification. But first, he said, he wanted to address something that had come up in the original denial letter, a note, in the reviewing officer's file, that his character and reliability as a witness were in question. He wanted to speak to that directly. Greer looked up from his folder. Drummond explained that 6 weeks earlier, on a Thursday afternoon, he had found a wallet on the steps of the Callaway Public Library. He described it: brown leather, a silver clasp, approximately $460 in cash, 2 credit cards, a library card, and a folded medical appointment slip with a name and address on it. He had taken it directly to the 3rd precinct, not the nearest precinct, which was the 4th, but the 3rd, because he knew the 3rd was the one that handled property intake for that side of the library. He had waited 40 minutes. He had turned it over to the desk sergeant and provided his name, his address, a transitional housing facility on Mercer, and his phone number. He had not kept $1. He said this without drama. He said it the way a man reports a fact. Greer set down his pen. Mr. Drummond, he said, and the word came out with a particular flatness, the kind that signals not indifference but decision. Are you offering this anecdote as evidence of your character? Drummond said he was. Then I'll tell you what I hear, Greer said. He leaned back. I hear a story that was prepared for this room. I hear something coached. He picked up his pen again. $460 is a specific number. A specific precinct. A desk sergeant. It has the texture of a rehearsed account, and I've sat in this chair long enough to recognize the shape of it. Drummond did not move. I'm going to move to exclude the supplemental character submission from the record, Greer said, nodding toward the envelope, on the grounds that uncorroborated self-reporting of this kind is not a recognized evidentiary category under the tribunal's guidelines, and that including it would set a precedent this panel has no basis to establish. He said it without looking at the veteran. Marta's fingers had gone still on the steno keys. She made herself move them again. It was panel chair Aldrich who spoke next, and she did not raise her voice. Before I rule on that motion, she said, I want to see what's in the envelope. Greer turned to her. The motion is to exclude prior to review, he said. That's standard. I understand what it is, Aldrich said. Bring the envelope forward, please. A clerk carried it to her. She undid the metal clasp herself, tilted the envelope, and drew out the contents, a 2-page document printed on what looked like standard bond paper, and behind it, a single sheet of something heavier, institutional, with a header and a stamp. Aldrich looked at the top document first. She turned it over, read the back. Then she lifted the second sheet and held it flat on the table in front of her, and she read it for a full 30 seconds without speaking. Marta watched Greer. He had picked up his pen again and was drawing a slow, unnecessary line across a blank portion of his notepad. He did not look at the panel chair. He had the posture of a man who has already decided what the next 30 seconds contain and is merely waiting for them to pass. He was wrong about the next 30 seconds. Marta did not know yet what was on the second sheet. But she had been in enough rooms to know that when a chair goes still and reads something twice, the thing she is reading has changed the shape of the session. The clerk near the door had stopped shuffling papers. Even the flickering fluorescent tube had settled, for the moment, into a steady burn. The room was very quiet. "Mr. Greer," Aldrich said. "Chair. This second document is a property receipt and chain of custody log, issued by the Callaway Police Department, 3rd Precinct." She set it down but kept her eyes on it. It is dated 6 weeks ago, a Thursday. It lists one found wallet, brown leather, silver clasp, contents including $463 in United States currency, 2 credit cards, and 1 medical appointment slip. She looked up. It bears the printed name and countersignature of the duty desk sergeant on that shift. Mr. Drummond's name, address, and phone number are entered in the witness field. She turned the sheet so the dais could see it. It is an official municipal document, countersigned and date-stamped. Greer said nothing. Aldrich looked at him. She did not look at him the way someone looks at a person they are about to argue with. She looked at him the way someone looks at a problem they have just accurately identified. "You move to exclude the supplemental character submission," she said, on the grounds that the account was uncorroborated self-reporting. "Mr. Drummond's submission includes a corroborating document issued by a department of this city." She paused. "I'll read it into the record." She read it in full. Every line. The case number on the property receipt, the date, the time of intake, 3:47 in the afternoon, the contents of the wallet listed individually, the dollar figure to the cent, the sergeant's name, the countersignature, the date stamp. When she finished, she set the document down squarely in front of her. "Motion to exclude is denied," she said. "The supplemental submission is entered into the record in full." Drummond had not moved during the reading. His hands were still folded on the table in front of him. His face had not changed. Greer reached for his water glass and set it back down without drinking from it. Aldrich sorted her papers for a moment. Then she said, without particular emphasis, "I want to note for the record that a motion to exclude a piece of evidence, filed before that evidence was reviewed, and premised on a characterization of the claimant's account as fabricated, a characterization that the evidence directly contradicts, represents a conduct concern I am obligated to log." She wrote something on the yellow legal pad to her left. "I am referring the conduct matter to the Municipal Personnel Board. That referral will be entered in today's session notes." The room did not react visibly. There was no murmur from the gallery, because there was no gallery to speak of, only Marta at her machine, a clerk near the door, and a junior staffer from the benefits office who had stopped writing anything at all. Greer did not say anything. He was looking at a point somewhere between the table in front of him and the window beyond the veteran's shoulder. Aldrich turned back to the matter before her. She reviewed the underlying appeal, the reclassification of Drummond's service-connected rating, with the same care she had given the property receipt. She asked him 3 questions, all of them specific: the date of the original rating, the name of the reviewing office that issued the reclassification, and whether he had received the standard 60-day notification window. He answered each one. His answers were exact. There was no hesitation between the question and the reply, and no inflation in the replies themselves, just the facts, in order, the way a person recites things they have had cause to remember for a long time. 22 minutes after the chain of custody log had been read into the record, Aldrich stated her finding. The reclassification had not followed the proper notification procedure, she said. The record supported the appeal. The supplemental benefits claim was approved, retroactive to the date of the original reclassification. The approval would be entered in the session record and transmitted to the benefits office by end of business. She asked if Drummond had anything further to add. He said, "No, ma'am. Thank you." He gathered his envelope, now empty, its contents part of the official record, clipped the clasp shut by habit, and stood. He tucked the chair in behind him. He walked to the door at a steady pace, not quickly, not slowly, and he pushed it open and was gone before Marta had finished transcribing the final ruling language. She looked down at her machine. The steno tape was longer than she expected for a session of this length. She had been pressing keys without fully realizing it, capturing everything, including the silences she had translated into notation and the pauses she had marked with their own symbols. She had been transcribing hearings for 3 years. She had learned that most people who came to these rooms were nervous, and that the nervousness usually told you something about their relationship to the truth, not that nervous people lied, but that the stakes were real to them, and real stakes produced a certain quality of attention. Drummond had not been nervous. He had been precise. There was a difference, and she had felt it in the room before she understood it. The junior staffer near the back was gathering her things. The clerk was logging the session number. Greer had pushed back from the dais and was speaking quietly to no one, reading something on his phone, the posture of a man who has decided his next move is to appear to be elsewhere. Aldrich was still at the dais. She was writing in long, unhurried lines on her legal pad, and she did not look up. Marta began her standard end-of-session review, scrolling back through the tape. She caught the moment, not long after the session opened, when Drummond had said, "I did not keep $1, and the room had been perfectly still." She had transcribed it correctly. She marked the timestamp in her log. She did not know anything about his life outside that room. She did not know how he had come to the transitional housing facility on Mercer, or what the 14 years of service had cost him, or what the wrong reclassification had meant in the months since it landed. She knew only what the record contained, that a man had found a wallet with $463 in it and had carried it 40 minutes across the city to turn it in, and that a hearing officer had called that a performance, and that a municipal document bearing a city stamp and a sergeant's countersignature had said otherwise. She finished her review. She saved the session file and printed the certification sheet and signed it at the bottom, the way she always did. Then she wrote one additional line in her personal session log, not the official transcript, but the small notebook she kept for her own reference, the one she had started on her first day. She had never written anything personal in it before. She had always used it for case numbers and docket references and the names of panel chairs. She wrote, the record was already there. He just waited for someone to read it. She closed the notebook and put it in her bag and carried her steno machine out of the room, down the corridor with its worn linoleum and its smell of old carpet, and out through the front doors of Callaway City Hall into the cold morning. The veteran was not on the steps. He was already gone.